notice we have a colleague from Vermont on the floor. If the colleague might be interested in asking a question.
Will the senator yield for a question?
I would yield for a question.
How are you managing to do this? You've been up all night, and your staff too. It is really, really quite extraordinary.
Well, thank you for that question. I am on the verge of
And the staff.
falling over, but I've got an hour more before we're going to wrap up this effort. I am so pleased that so many have been able to come from the caucus and help ring the alarm bells, because this is the most perilous moment for our republic since the Civil War. And never did I expect it to be in my time. I thought, yes, we argue over housing policy and how can we best have a decent home and a decent community. And yes, we argue over education policy and how can it be a pathway for every child to have a full and productive life. All these foundations.
Another question.
Oh, another question. I would yield for another question. Yes, I would.
All right, well.
Make it a long one.
I'll make it a longish one, but I want to join in my colleagues in expressing to you our gratitude for this incredible physical effort that reflects not just your intellectual engagement, but your deep passion and the care you have for the Oregonians that you have been serving so well for so long. It's really been, just for me, a wonderful opportunity being a new member of the Senate. Along with Senator Schiff, I know you feel the same way, to be working with somebody like the senator from Oregon, who's just honest and true and totally grounded in your commitment to the people that you serve, in the Constitution that all of us serve. It's just a gratifying experience for us to be your colleague. You know, one thing that I want to talk about was tariffs and who has the authority to impose tariffs and what the implications are. Because what I'm seeing is that our farm economy is really being devastated by tariffs. And let's talk about Midwest farmers. They're proud folks, like the dairy farmers in Vermont. And they used to have markets. The thing they love to do is have purchasing power that they earned by tilling the land, family farm operations that would be passed down from generation to generation. They really didn't want a lot of government involvement or interference, so they wanted to be able to grow their crops. And what I'm seeing is that the Trump administration embrace of tariffs has resulted in the total collapse of the markets that used to be available to our Midwest farmers, including the China market. And you know, last year, our farmers sold about 30 or 40% of their soybean crops to China. They haven't sold a bushel, okay? They haven't sold a bushel. And there's now talk by Trump of taking revenue from the tariffs to pay farmers a subsidy. And I get it that farmers need it, but wouldn't it make more sense to let farmers sell the crop that they grow rather than have a tariff that prohibits them from selling to markets they have had? And the second thing I noticed, and I really am interested in this because rural America is the heart of America. You know, the wonderful community values folks have, family values, hard work, service. We've got a billionaire who's the Secretary of the Treasury, and my understanding, I don't know how I guess if you're a billionaire, you'll own lots of things in lots of different places, but he apparently owns lots of farmland out in the West. But his major new initiative is to take $40 billion of our money to bail out the Argentine peso. So maybe you can explain to me how that's going to help our Midwest farmers. A stronger bailed out peso from Secretary Bessent, and how the Bessent policy on tariffs is going to give any kind of lifeline to those family farms that have been so much part of our heritage, who do so much for the well-being of our country, and whose prosperity is so essential to the well-being of our whole country. Farmers like to feed people. They like to work hard. They don't want to bail out. They don't want a handout. And we've got the tariff policies that are wrecking their markets. And then we've got a bailout that's going to Argentina that's going to further erode the ability of our farmers to sell their product. Because, oh, by the way, the Argentinian farmers are now going into the markets we're helping them create that have been opened up as a result of denying access to those markets for our Midwest farmers. So perhaps you could explain to me how this makes sense.
Well, I appreciate the question from my colleague from Vermont. And I must say soybeans have come up several times today, as has Argentina. And this is so troubling. Now, I'll tell you, when I met with my Farm Bureau, everyone has a little bit of queasiness, even if tariffs haven't touched them yet. But the tariffs are changing all the time. And how might it suddenly affect the market if another tariff changes, or the input, or so forth? And everyone in the agricultural world is terrified that if they lose their market, even temporarily, those relationships deteriorate. New relationships are forged. It's hard to get people back. If you've let people down once, then what happens next? And so this situation, this double deal, I guess I'll call it, with Argentina, where by us, well, having a trade war with China, so China doesn't buy a single bean. You said not a single bushel, and I've heard, yep, nothing, nada. And so Senator Murray of Washington was down here saying, we've got all these beans that normally travel through Washington State to get exported. Where the hell are they going to be stored? I don't know. But what I do know is that a lot of folks aren't going to be able to sell them, may not have a place to store them. I look forward to learning more about what's going to happen to this massive crop that there's no customer for because China went to Argentina. And then you mentioned the second part of the Argentina deal, that the president says, you know what, I want to bail out this far-right government down there because they're in trouble, and we don't want to let a far-right government be in trouble, and $20 billion and maybe $40 billion. Think of how much money that is. That's $100 for every single person in the United States of America. You know, if I went door to door in Oregon and personally asked everybody, would you like to give $100 to Argentina? You know how many takers I'd have? I think I would get 0 takers. And by the way, where is the legislation that gives the president the power to give $20 billion or $40 billion to Argentina? I haven't looked it up yet. I'm going to look it up. But I think it's exactly a feature of an authoritarian government that he wants to self out a fellow authoritarian government, but with a twist. And the twist is that apparently a group of well-placed colleagues, maybe friends of the Treasury Secretary, I believe I may have read, I won't say that definitively, they bought up some of the debt in Argentina. And they bought it at a discount, is my understanding. And again, I have not double-checked this, so I'm saying it with some caution. But what happens when you do that, and then there's a bailout, and you get face value? Let's say you paid 25 cents on the dollar, and you get face value after bailout, and you make 400% return. Well, that's great for the riches of whoever they are, that in America, that Trump wants to help out. I would yield. It has to be in the form of a question. But I would yield
for a question. So here's my question. Is this really a bailout for the financiers on Wall Street who bought this debt at 20 cents on the dollar, but may get paid $1 on a dollar? Or is this just flat out enrichment? They didn't lose. They're winning as other people suffer. So is this really a bailout or just a flat out, hey fellas, here's $40 billion. I love you, Donald Trump.
Well, thank you for that question. And I must say, it reminds me of a town hall. Because every now and then I realize I'm way over my head in what I actually know to be the facts. So I'm going to stop before I dig a digger hole because I have not personally researched it, read up on it. I've heard a variety of comments, almost in passing, from colleagues who are so disturbed about this arrangement, disturbed about what's going to happen with soybeans, disturbed that China's buying them from Argentina, disturbed that so we're having to bail out to Argentina, and disturbed that they have heard that a lot of that money may come back to some very rich people in the United States of America. But I do not know the details, and I'm going to leave it as a bit of a conjecture. And when we talk soon, I'll have the answers.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll yield back to the senator.
Thank you. I notice my colleague from Illinois has